Florida State is not done in the 2023 quarterback room. And we've got the latest there. Florida State extends offers on the same day to Brock Glenn and Ricky Collins, who Ricky Collins is actually a Big Ten commit to Purdue right now. Brock Glenn previously was competing in Nashville with 2023 quarterback commit Chris Parson. Ended up actually getting an invite to the Elite 11 finals. A lot going on here because, I think some Florida State fans, they've got Chris Parson, really talented quarterback out of Tennessee, but then maybe some question marks of why are they going after two more? It's kind of plain and simple here. Dustin, you might be able to relay that a little bit better to the listeners.
Hey guys, it's Terrence Nan. You're listening to Hear the Spear presented by Noel Game Day. Go Noles.
Hey, what's up? This is Peter Ward, a.k.a. E-Dub in the house. We're listening to Hear the Spear presented by Noel Game Day. Go Live, go Noles.
Hi, this is Charlie Ward, and you're listening to Hear the Spear. Go Noles.
This is Terrell Buckley. You're listening to Hear the Spear presented by Noel Game Day. No Bloody.
But perhaps better known as the greatest corner to ever step on a football field, Deion Primetime Sanders.
Great Deion Sanders, my brother. What's going on, man? I could wake up to that greeting every day, man. That was awesome.
Hello, Noles fans. This is former Seminole Derek Brooks, and you're listening to Hear the Spear, presented to you by Noel Game Day.
James Wilder Jr. What's going on, James?
Thanks for having me on. FSOD, Florida State or Die, and go Noles.
William Bar None Floyd.
Gentlemen, what's up?
What is happening, guys? This is Logan Robinson from Hear the Spear, presented to you by NoelGameDay.com. We are here on a rainy and nasty Thursday evening in Tallahassee, Florida, but the gentlemen are still with us this evening. The show doesn't stop. With me at the top is Austin Veazey, lead basketball writer, NoelGameDay.com, and down below is lead writer and editor Dustin Lewis. Gentlemen, we are here back again, and it is May. Nothing is going on, but we're going to keep the entertainment coming.
Yeah, where's the guest at?
Where's the guest, and where is another Jimbo versus Saban?
It's a little
drama
lacking in here.
We need more drama in college
every week.
football,
We're like, there's a guest showing up, a guest is going to show up, and then it's just these same three stupid faces.
Yeah, well, Dustin, I thought, was going to hook it up for us this week. Veazey, did we not hear that over the weekend?
I got stiff-armed.
We did hear a couple times that Dustin was supposed to handle it, and he did not handle it, apparently.
Yeah.
Well, I was pretty confident, and I don't know.
We're in deep trouble.
I was done wrong. That's all I can say.
We're in deep trouble, but we are in the works of fixing that. So I promise you that we're going to try to find some people. Maybe they just don't want to hang out with us. I do think they do. We just got to figure out schedules. But
it's that bad of a podcast, huh?
It's that bad.
We can't get one person to come on.
we can't even get our own normal co-host at this point.
Dang, poor Nate, man. Poor Nate gets mixed out. But yeah, we're in some trouble right now, but that's okay. We're just going to have to go find Carlos. Someone call Carlos and get him on. We got to talk 2013 again for the 18th time. Anyways, we have a little bit to talk about. Florida State landed a offensive lineman transfer from Charlotte. We'll talk about Dimitri Emmanuel and our thoughts on that pickup for Alex Atkins and Mike Norvell's offense. We'll talk a couple offers here, including a potential offer here from JUCO offensive lineman Mekhi Lee that we got to talk with earlier this week. We also got some offers on the quarterback side with Brock Glenn and Ricky Collins, two 2023 quarterbacks. As we know, Florida State currently has a talented quarterback already on its in the fold with Chris Parson. So that will be a discussion that we'll be having tonight. And then we'll finish it off with a little bit of the latest on the NFL side with some Noles. And we're going to talk three defensive players with a chance to break out in 2022. We got some game times announced, too. This is really the thick of May right now, where really what we get to talk about is some offers and some game times being announced. Nothing's more exciting than that, but I appreciate everybody hanging out with us. As always, you can listen on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, YouTube. Hit that subscribe button. Hit the like button. We're going to go through the offseason together. promise you things are going to get a little bit more interesting once we get into June with a lot more visits happening and Dustin sitting out in the moor being sunburnt like crazy. So it's going to be entertaining.
Yeah, my forehead just recently healed, but I'm ready to go get burned all over again.
Perfect. Yep. Sunscreen times 50. That's what you're going to need.
I need SPF 100, actually. 50 clearly didn't work. This was the result of 50.
Or you just need to apply it more than once.
I mean, look at my face. I can't take much more damage to this thing.
Yeah. You're lucky you got married while you did.
Right? In my prime.
Yeah, in your prime. Wow. Yeah, in your prime. Let's get started here. Florida State is beefing up that offensive line after what they saw this spring. Florida State lands Dimitri Emmanuel Charlotte, transfer offensive lineman, on a 1-year tie here in Tallahassee. Speaking of ties, obviously you think of Alex Atkins, where his previous stop was being a really great coach up there in Charlotte. This is a guard type of body, 6'2", 300. One thing that is worth noting here, which I think is kind of a trend for Norvell and what they like to bring into the locker room, this guy is old. This is an older player, veteran guy, has been around Charlotte since 2017. And if you go back to 2017, guys, that's 3 FSU coaches that have been through the fold. Jimbo Fisher was coaching a game against Alabama and Atlanta. You had Willie Taggart go through, and now you have Mike Norvell. This cat has been playing college football for a while now. But like I said, this is a guard guy, still is versatile, and that's worth noting there. You can kind of move him around. You hope that you don't really have to move him around, but Coach Atkins and them are most likely going to look at him at a guard spot. But we heard from Mike Norvell. He said a few things about having Dimitri in the fold. He said, we're excited to have Dimitri, and he's joined the Knoll family. He brings a tremendous amount of starting experience and proven leadership qualities to our program. Dimitri has been an all-conference performer as part of successful teams, and his blocking has helped playmakers shine. He will help us continue to develop by adding more competition among our offensive line. So a nice addition here, much needed. But what's your first thoughts on the pickup here for Alex Atkins, D-Lou?
Yeah, I think this is a pretty good grab for Florida State. You know, when you look at Emmanuel, this is a guy that Atkins has already previously worked with in the past. In 2019, he coached at Charlotte for 1 season, so they worked together. And from that point on, you know, Emmanuel, you mentioned he came in 2017, 2018, he didn't really contribute. Atkins comes in, he starts a career-high 12 games, and then starts the final 24 games that he appeared in at Charlotte at both tackle spots and at one of the guard spots. But coming into Florida State, you know, he's probably not an offensive tackle, being a guy who's 6'2", probably around 300 pounds. So he would slot in perfectly at one of those guard spots, or, you know, even as a top backup at those spots. And he can definitely take some reps at tackle in emergency situations, but he's probably not someone you're trotting out there as your starter at tackle. Maybe you get some reps throughout the games and different situations, but I really see his main impact being on the interior for Florida State.
And I think the biggest thing is he's, like Logan mentioned, he's old. We've talked about it's a young team, and to have some seniority and some leadership, I think that's going to be huge for a young team that needs to win some games for Norvell to keep going, really.
Yeah, no, Norvell really likes to bring in older guys. You look at Mackenzie Millen, you look at Jermaine Johnson. He looks at a lot of veterans from previous stops to bring inside of his locker room. And that's something that, since the progression of this culture inside of that locker room, Norvell has been wanting to do. And there's a lot of maturity that needed to be changed inside of there. And that's what he's doing. And I don't think that's just that as being a leader and a guy that with a lot of experience, but this is also big time for depth, because when I was out there, and you are also out there a few times, D-Lou, watching the offensive line, we went into that spring, all of us on here, we felt pretty good. We were like, wow, this could be a position group that we're not so worried about, and like I was in previous years. But then after the spring and going through the motions there and seeing, you know, maybe it was just Florida State's defensive line dominating, but the depth problem, you go back to this past season too, and you've got guys that haven't even played the damn position before being put in different roles at away games. And that's something you can't have. And it puts the whole offensive line in a pretty difficult spot and hurts your overall offense for sure. And so I think Florida State saw that, they went in the spring. That's why you have a spring. Thank God there is a spring, because they're able to learn that's just not going to work. We got to have more beef. We got to add more guys in there. And I'll be honest, it didn't look great. I mean, you still got your starting guys in there. Some guys a little still dinged up, and guys weren't fully healthy, full throttle throughout the spring. But still, I mean, I think you feel pretty good. You feel maybe strong about your starter group. But if someone drops down, you're in some trouble. But this is where Dimitri Emmanuel can come in and either take a spot. He could start if need be, but he can fill in the void there with some really good experience in the college level.
Yeah, you pretty much nailed it on the head. Last year, when Florida State lost someone in that starting group, the offensive line just fell apart. You know, we saw it a couple times as that unit dealt with injuries. And same thing this spring. You're feeling pretty comfortable with those top 5 guys. You know, you've got 5 or 6 guys that you really like. Robert Scott, Dylan Gibbons, Reese Smith, Caden Lyles, Darius Washington, and Bless Harris. Now you add Emmanuel to that. So you have 7 guys that you should feel pretty comfortable working with in the fall. And then the hope is maybe someone like Lloyd Willis, Rod Orr, Thomas Schrader, the light turns on there for one of those guys, and you can have 8 or 9 potential contributors. And, you know, injuries are just a thing that's going to happen in football, especially up front on the offensive line where those guys are getting after it every single play. So you've got to have a nice little buildup of depth behind them to be able to supplement those eventual injuries.
Yeah, and going back to a little bit, some background here on Dimitri. He's from originally North Carolina. He started 25 total games. He had a consecutive 24 starts, which I got to go ahead and put that right there right now. I mean, for that coming in and looking back at Florida State's stable of offensive linemen being able to play just a consistent season alone and not being hurt, I'll take that right there for me. You know, a guy that can stay healthy throughout a season, multiple season. You know, this is a guy that's just coming in on a 1-year deal, but just the factor of him being able to stay healthy and play is big. But like we talked about earlier, he can be moved around if need be. And I don't think that's what Florida State necessarily wants to rely on. But during his time at Charlotte, played a little bit of left tackle, right tackle, and left guard up there for the 49ers. He started all 7 games, played in 2021 with 5 starts at left guard and 2 starts at right tackle. So he can be shifted around and understands maybe what package he's going to be put into. And, you know, I think the ties with Alex Atkins helps a lot here. And Florida State's, I think, emphasis is going to be on that run game a lot this upcoming season. I know that they brought in a lot of transfers at wide receiver, and I do think there's some guys with some playmaking abilities. This room is a lot better than it was last year looking at it. But this run game, which I'm really excited for, I think we're going to talk a lot about it this offseason, but this run game and the versatility of different kinds of backs is going to be huge. And, you know, the ways for those guys to get going is offensive line and up front. And this is something Dimitri Emmanuel can do. He can block very well in the run game. If you guys go look at some of his film, that's something that he does very well. I think there's a few stats here, definitely looking back at his time in the 49ers. Their offense there, they held a school record average of 203 yards per game while blocking for the first team all conference running back Benny LeMay. So, you know, his rush blocking is pretty decent, and that's something Florida State's going to utilize quite a bit. So just another good note there.
Yeah. And, you know, of course, you would love to land a 6'5", 6'6" offensive tackle to come in and shore up that unit, but there just haven't been a ton of quality options available in the transfer portal to this point. You know, FSU is still looking at that offensive tackle out of South Carolina, so we'll see what happens there. And Logan, I know you mentioned it earlier, but you've got the JUCO offensive lineman Mekhi Lee, who's going to be on campus in early June, and if he picks up an offer and finishes out academically, signs are pointing to Florida State being a strong contender in that recruitment. And even after the addition of Emmanuel, you still have, I believe, unofficially 81 out of 85 scholarships allocated. So still 4 spots remaining, and there's going to be a JUCO defensive back, a 2022 guy on campus in June as well. So Florida State exploring different options to try and fill out the last couple of spots leading up to the fall.
Yeah, Makai talked with Nate earlier this week. This is a big cat here. I like big guys.
Can you quit saying cat?
No, I said it only once. I took off like a couple
We're well
months from
past that
saying
point.
it. Yeah,
No, we're well
I had
past that.
y'all had like a 2-month break from it. I'm back, baby. Definitely, if we're talking about big boys up front, this is a big cat. This is a big boy that you probably want to have a tackle, which Florida State definitely needs. But Makai Lee is probably going to grab that offer from Florida State. There's a math class that's got to go through, and then I would expect Coach Atkins to extend an offer to him. But 6'6", 315 pounds, and that's a true tackle size right there. Florida State needs one, and that opens up a lot of options. I think that's what Coach Atkins is wanting. He's scheduled for June 10th and the 12th. I think he's going to take a week off and then make the decision. It seems like it's down to 2, Florida State and Missouri, if that offer is indeed extended to Makai and things go right there. And I would expect, Florida State to be in a good spot. So Florida State on the potential here, getting out of, mid-June, end of June, adding on at least 2 more offensive linemen. And you're seeing an emphasis on that because of what happened last year and what we saw this spring. You got to find some more help up there. It's just not going to be able to work with those starting 5.
Yeah, and it would be huge to add Lee alongside Emmanuel. And then, I said it a couple minutes ago, you've got now 7 offensive linemen you feel about. If you can get up to 8 with Lee and then one of those other guys, younger guys, starts to blossom in the fall where you feel comfortable enough adding them into the rotation, then you've got 9 or 10. And that's what you need in this day and age of college football. You've got to have guys ready to go. And Florida State, with the way that room was decimated ever since the end of the Jimbo Fisher era and the Willie Taggart era, they've slowly been rebuilding that depth, and you're finally getting there where the starting unit you feel good about, but you've got to have those guys behind them, and it's going to help. There's still some young guys in that room, obviously the freshmen that are coming in that 2022 class, so a lot to feel comfortable about moving into the future, but still some youth to deal with at the present.
Yeah, you're not going to see Armella. You're not going to see Sapp. Not even Woody come in and start. Those guys aren't going to be pivotal starters right off the bat. Great for developing them, just like Daughtry Richardson, who I thought had a really good spring just for being a freshman in there, which I'm really excited for Richardson. But these guys aren't going to play an impact and come in their first season. This is a big emphasis on bringing experienced guys in at the college level, and that's exactly what Florida State needs. So we'll continue to keep some coverage there on what the staff is trying to do there on the offensive line. Florida State just got some game times announced just a couple of hours ago. Florida State's home opener, season opener against Duquesne has been announced. That's going to be a 5:00 kickoff in Tallahassee on week 0. And then Florida State is going to be traveling over to Louisville, I believe on September 16th, if I'm correct. Yep, September 16th. At 7 p.m. That is a Friday night game. Another Friday. This season is so weird, guys. It's all over the place with Sunday night games, Friday night games. Is there a Thursday night game somewhere?
No, I checked. I was like, come on, let there be a Thursday game or like just a Monday, like just something random.
Dang it, man.
But yeah, you play on 3 different days. So
Am I the one that kind of likes it though?
I kind of like it because you get your whole Saturday just to watch other games.
Yeah. You get a little bit of variance. You don't have to worry just about Saturday about FSU. You can watch some other good games.
Yep. Oh yeah. No, it took me a little bit. I'll be honest. Probably like a lot of other Florida State fans, watching that Florida game be on a Friday night, and it took me a minute. I'm like, oh man, come on, it can't be a Saturday. But then I'm like, that won't be too bad. Going into Doak Friday night. Then Saturday having a clean slate of nothing to do afterwards. Really, I think I'll take it.
It'll be bad for Austin because that's Black Friday.
Good, miserable.
Shoes are going off the shelves, buddy.
Shoes are going off the shelves.
Listen, man, something's got to sell.
Hey, no, he's probably going to be making bank.
So might as well be me.
I wouldn't be complaining then. Nope, exactly. No, but those games got announced. So the season opener is going to kick off at 5. No reason to even dive into this at all. It's a Duquesne, but you know what?
Are you sure?
I was about to
After
say,
what
I
we've
know.
experienced.
Yeah, I had a conversation with my dad at dinner tonight.
I've been studying some film over the last couple weeks. I feel like
It's kind of crazy that we already
out.
know a third of the schedule times, and it's May.
Yeah,
because normally you're waiting until sometimes the week of.
Yeah.
Well, sometimes you're waiting until the week of
too.
to get the game time. You don't know if it's going to be at 12 or 3:30. They've
There'll
got
still
their
be
different
that.
flex times and stuff. Yeah, for
There'll
some
still be that,
games,
especially if FSU's a lot better than people expect, and going down to Miami, that could be an 8 o'clock game if both teams are relevant enough.
I hope not.
Oh man,
It's not going to happen.
Optimism.
But, we can wish for it.
Right, optimism, baby. We're gonna go into New Orleans. We're gonna see Florida State. They're gonna win that first game, and we're gonna be just all optimism when we get in New Orleans. I will say that is a good spot, though, Dustin, to be if we're down there and if Florida State does lose, we are in a good spot with a lot of liquor and a lot of partying. So that is perfect for.
I'm hitting the roulette table, so you'll know before Sunday if Florida State's going to win or not, depending on how.
So if Florida State loses, you also lose all your money too, right? You just add on to it.
Well, yeah, I got to go win a lot of money at roulette and then go place a giant bet on Florida State. Money line, obviously, because they're the underdog, and rake it in.
Rake it, baby. Visa, you said you don't know if you're coming down into New Orleans?
Yeah, I don't know yet. It's expensive.
It is, man. My dad
it's an
was talking
expensive
about
flight from Charlotte to New Orleans for some reason.
And it's a little tricky. But yeah,
we'll see.
Drive it out.
I would love to. I love New Orleans. Great food city. Arguably the best food city.
Wow.
I know it's a strong claim, but it's a fun city. I've been there a few times and want to go back, but I don't know if it could be this time.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I love how we're supposed to talk Duquesne and Louisville, but I honestly don't.
Who
I couldn't
cares
give 2 flying Fs right now. All I care about is New Orleans and drinking. I'll be honest with you, and some good food.
No more than 10 people knew who Duquesne was before the schedule was announced.
All I'm saying is FSU lost to the last FCS team they played, and
here we go.
They've lost the last 2 years at Louisville. So
we've got to start diving in.
Bud.
We got to get a guest on from Duquesne whenever that week 0 is coming. Boys, we got to hope we starting a week early. We got a short off season. Tough.
We're on here every week anyway.
Well, that is true. Well, I'm talking about like work. Like we're having to go to the stadium and stuff. You don't really do it. Yeah, you don't really do it. Yeah, you don't really work. Quashawn Sapp, Jay's worried. Dustin, should Jay be worried about Quashawn Sapp arriving in Tallahassee?
He should be. What's today? Today's Thursday. I traded messages with him a week or 2 weeks ago, and he said that he would be arriving in Tallahassee on May 28th. So looks like Saturday he'll be here to finalize the enrollment process and get all moved in. And Jarrell Powers is already on campus. Not quite sure about Jalen Early or Julian Armella at this time, but both of them are set and ready to go. They'll be here shortly as well, either by the end of this month or early June.
Okay, good sign. I know we're keeping an eye out for everybody, including Dustin Hill, right?
And Woody.
That's right, Antavius Woody, which me and Nate, we're very excited for Woody. If he can make it into Tallahassee, I think that is one of your most talented guys in the class. I mean, he is, but I like that.
Apparently there's some rising optimism there that he's going to get it done academically and make it into Florida State without having to go to junior college. So if so, that would be a huge development. And so if you were to get Woody and Hill into Florida State, that bumps your scholarships up to 83 out of 85. That means you have 2 remaining.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So you get Makai Lee, the JUCO. You get that safety that's coming in June. I can't remember the name off the top of my head. I think it's Jaden Pearson from the 2022 class, a JUCO defensive back. There's your 85.
Okay.
We'll see.
Yeah. Nope. It's gonna be an interesting June, to say the least, because you also got Summer C classes going on, and you're keeping an eye out for that signee from the 2021 class with Dustin Hill. So it's going to be, everybody's going to have their eyes open and peeled outside the Moore, I'm sure, in June. And I know you'll be out there quite a bit for some recruiting visits and some camps. So busy June ahead for Florida State. And we're making it through May. We're almost done. It's May 26th. So last podcast in May. We've made it through one of the rough parts. Florida State is not done in the 2023 quarterback room. And we've got the latest there. Florida State extends offers on the same day to Brock Glenn and Ricky Collins, who Ricky Collins is actually a Big Ten commit to Purdue right now. Brock Glenn previously was competing in Nashville with 2023 quarterback commit Chris Parson. Ended up actually getting an invite to the Elite 11 finals. A lot going on here because, I think some Florida State fans, they've got Chris Parson, really talented quarterback out of Tennessee, but then maybe some question marks of why are they going after two more? It's kind of plain and simple here. Dustin, you might be able to relay that a little bit better to the listeners.
Yeah, it may seem like a little bit of surprise to the fans for now Florida State to be pursuing two quarterbacks. And from the gate, that was something the staff has kind of been thinking about, just looking at the current state of the room and the 2023 class and the transfer portal and trying to put it all together on deciding which route they want to go down. And, obviously this week they decided to go ahead and pursue two quarterbacks in the 2023 class, and it has nothing to do with Chris Parson. From the FSU side, they've expressed that they still love what Chris Parson is going to bring to this program. They love his mentality and they love the potential that he has. And now they just want to add another guy alongside him. So next year, barring, there's always attrition in college football. And Jordan Travis, he's been in college now for 5 years. He could very well leave Florida State after the fall. And you look at Tate Rodemaker, he could possibly leave as well if he wants to get a shot to go and start elsewhere. So then you're down to just AJ Duffy if that scenario was to happen. So it's kind of important, I would say, looking at it from that standpoint, to try and grab two signal callers in this class. And Florida State, they're obviously familiar with Brock Glenn. He was on campus in March for an unofficial visit, and they've kind of kept up the communication a little bit since then, just in case they were to decide to go and take two quarterbacks. And that happened earlier this week. They extended the offer, and Brock Glenn as well as Collins are both expected to be on campus in June.
Yep. So the big thing here, I know everybody was freaking out in the Discord on Twitter, like, what is this going to do to Chris Parson? It seems like Florida State has been pretty communicative, with Parson, letting him know, this is what the game plan is, now with going after with two more quarterbacks. And I think that's just the overall smart thing to do. I don't think, we luckily have been, close throughout the recruitment of Parson. I don't think he's scared of any kind of competition. It's just how Florida State wants to do it in this class and bring in some depth, which is much needed right now. I'm worried about Florida State's quarterback room. I am absolutely worried about it heading into this upcoming season. I'll be honest. Sadly, 2023 class ain't going to help with it at all with this upcoming season. But that's just because there was no good game planning there, in my opinion. You also lost some commitments too that you were supposed to grab. But going into this upcoming season, you've got Jordan Travis, who, knock on wood, the things with him has just been health. But if you lose Jordan Travis, I don't think there's a starting caliber quarterback right now on Florida State's room. And that's a scary thought. And so this is something that Norvell and the staff are trying to fix going into 2023, to where, you're starting to build up a lineup of talented guys. You can try to grab a high profile star there and then try to go after maybe some lower guys. But they want to bring in some true talent to where there's a competitive edge there. And now with the transfer portal, that opens up options for guys to say, hey, yeah, I'll come compete. Things don't work out, then maybe there's some options at some other places. But they have to find a better fix in that quarterback room, because right now doesn't look pretty.
Yeah, and really it just came down to there were no fits in the transfer portal that Florida State was very interested in pursuing this offseason, and they've communicated that with Chris Parson, since the beginning of the new year, that there was a possibility that they would always go after two quarterbacks in this class. And from what I understand, there was a talk between both parties prior to these offers going out, and Chris Parson was not, it didn't come out of the blue that these offers emerged on Tuesday. He was aware, he is aware of that fact, and it is a little interesting because he has a little bit of familiarity with Brock Lynn. Obviously, both of them competing in the state of Tennessee. Logan, you mentioned them at that Elite 11 event. When I spoke to Brock Lynn last night, he actually told me that him and Parson had talked a little bit over social media, and they were talking throughout the day at the camp, and he had nothing but high remarks to say about Chris. So Brock Lynn, very well-spoken kid. I can read off some of the quotes, and I'm trying to get in contact with Collins as well.
Yeah, Collins definitely another really impressive quarterback there. And so you're trying to just continue to build not really depth here, but you're talking about potential starters at Florida State competing against one another. So I'm glad to see, Florida State they're doing their due diligence and also having good communication with their current commits. And that's obviously starting off with their bell cow, Chris Parson, who has done a really phenomenal job of building these relationships with a lot of these recruits across the country and continuing to be a bell cow and help out recruiting. And, communication goes both ways. That's definitely big time for, them to build a nice 2023 class, which I know it's kind of been slow to start off in May, maybe, but seems like things are definitely going to start picking up here in the latter half of the month, definitely head into June. So we'll keep an eye on those two offers there. Like I said, we'll most likely get some interviews after visits have been made too, hopefully. I thought we'd jump into this real quick. Talk about we put out a piece earlier this week talking about 3 defensive players with a really good chance of breaking out this upcoming season. And I know that there's definitely a lot that you could put together here of some guys that have some really good chances of playing a really big time impact into Florida State that we might have not really seen make an impact in previous years. And I thought we'd kind of do a little round table here real quick before, there's not a lot of basketball stuff going on. So trying to get some content, but that's what I'm doing here. I'm trying to find some content for us. But I'll tell you what, if I were to pick someone right now, at least from looking at the spring, who's going to break out and be a star on defense, who do you think I'm going to go with? Who do you think I'm going to go with?
Derek McClendon.
Yeah, I mean, if we're going off of guys that haven't played in previous times at Florida State, because you can't count Bethune, you can't count Jared Verse here.
Yeah, no transfers, of course.
Yep, they got to be previous. They had to been on the roster the year prior or more. Probably your top guy would be Derek McClendon, a guy that's really worked on his body. We've seen a lot of training videos. I don't know if you guys have seen him on social media, but he just continues to work on his body, man.
You can thank me.
Oh, yeah, you've been training him? You've been giving the diet?
I'm always on his Instagram lives when he's playing basketball, and I'm like, dunk it. I finally got him to dunk it one time, and I was like, yes, and I left. So you can thank me. I was really getting him to boost that athleticism.
Nice. Good job. I'm really proud of you. You better hope he doesn't get hurt. Then we're all going to start blaming you. But yeah, no, I'm definitely excited for Derek McClendon. I think he's a breakout star and the works because he's going to be a starter this upcoming season. What we saw in the spring. It's just crazy what he did with his body, man. I remember him wearing that 55. He'd be on the inside on the defensive line. Like, yeah, man, that guy is fast. But now that he's trimmed up a lot of pounds, I wonder how much he's lost. I mean, it's got to be 20 something pounds, maybe even more than that. And he's trimmed up well. He's fast off the edge. He's going to play a pivotal factor, trying to replace what Florida State had with Jermaine Johnson and Keir Thomas. Those two guys played 1 and 2 kind of tandem on games. You go back to the Miami game, Jermaine Johnson, if he wasn't grabbing the sack, bringing pressure, and you had Keir Thomas coming in to clean up. This is what you're going to hope with Derek McClendon on one of those sides, at least. Don't know what you got on the other side. Jared Verse, you got Briggs too. You're hoping a lot in McClendon this upcoming season, but I think that's a guy that has a really high chance of breaking out this upcoming season.
Yeah, I mean that's definitely got to be the number one guy that if we're talking about guys breaking out in 2022 that haven't flashed tremendously previously in their careers, it's got to be him, because he's just taken so many steps forward physically this offseason, and his confidence has come a long way as his skills have improved. And yeah, I really do think he's in line for a pretty solid season this upcoming year.
Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say another guy on the defensive line to watch, maybe a Jarrett Jackson type, a guy that's a rotational defensive tackle who showed some moments last year, but only ended up with 10 tackles. We saw him step up, especially as a leader, but I think in stepping up statistically this season, he's gonna be a big part of that defensive line rotation that, can generate some pass rush when needed.
Yeah. Who did you just say? Did you say Briggs?
Jackson. Jarrett Jackson.
Oh, Jarrett. Oh man, I didn't even hear what you said. I didn't even hear what you said, and I was about to go in on Jarrett.
I feel like you've got to put Jarrett Jackson and Malcolm Ray
in the same combo. I was going to say that same discussion as well.
Well, they're going to be a tandem together. You're going to give Robert Cooper and Fabian Lovett some time off the field. You're probably going to be plugging those two guys into a package, which that's a nice package to have if you're going to replace Fabian Lovett and Robert Cooper with Malcolm Ray, who we saw have some flashes last year. Wasn't really a breakout, but we saw some nice plays from him. And then, we know what we kind of got there with Jarrett Jackson. I'll say Jarrett Jackson had a really good spring. I don't think a lot of people were really noticing that as much, but I thought he came into camp with, a mission. He's not going to start over Fabian Lovett. He's not going to start over Robert Cooper. Those guys are NFL products right now. And he's not going to start over them, but he's going to have, I think, a really good season. And I really liked what I saw from Jarrett Jackson. Like VZ said, the leadership role, I was seeing that a lot this spring. And that's something that, you learn right off the bat from your coach, Odell Higgins. That's just who he is. He's a veteran guy, and he coaches that unit very well and goes on to develop them into becoming, long 10-year defensive lineman in the NFL. But, Jarrett Jackson, I think, is another great pick here if we're looking for some guys maybe under the covers that you're not maybe thinking of too much, because, we could probably name some guys like, Marion Cooper. We saw those flashes. Got to see a national television against Clemson, who I think definitely, he's going to be a guy that's going to be a starter heading into 2022. That's another cat. If you're looking at a defensive back, that has a really high chance.
Yeah, and in the same vein of putting those two defensive linemen in the same conversation, you've got to talk about Marion Cooper and Kevin Knowles together. Two outstanding true freshmen who, at least in Cooper's case, Cooper came in the summer. Knowles was an early enrollee. So looking at what Cooper did, breaking into the rotation after getting in late, extremely impressive. And then Knowles as well. He was already making flashes last year during spring practice. We were starting to hear his name, got an interception in the spring game. And then you see it as the season starts to go on, both of those guys getting into lineup, getting interceptions, making plays in the right moments, in big moments. In Cooper's case, like you mentioned, Clemson also had a outstanding game against Miami. So both of those guys, still extremely youthful, but there's a ton of talent there. And Florida State, you've got your experience at safety, but you've got to love the youth and potential that you have at cornerback.
Mm-hmm. Marcus is going ahead and throwing in his pick and saying Akeem Dent here. And I think, he's kind of he almost had it his freshman year. If he would have taken down those damn picks, he would have been a pickup player out of everybody. He would have been MVP of the damn season. But Dent, out of probably defensive players, probably him and Verse had the best spring. The coaching staff absolutely loved what they saw from Akeem Dent this spring. Absolutely killed it with multiple takeaways in both scrimmages, and was just a star during the practices. And watching him battle, there was definitely a big time switch from him. So if we were able to put Dent into that breakout, I would definitely name him. If he's a candidate to be a breakout star, he's just a veteran guy. He's made plays a few times. The biggest thing, if he's going to break out, it's got to be a consistent basis for him. And there's a really high chance that could happen looking at what he did during the spring. So I think there are definitely some names to keep an eye out for to break out. I'm trying to think if there's anyone else that hasn't. Well, yeah. What do we think?
If Jamie Robinson and Akeem Dent didn't have those starting safety spots locked down, I would go with
What was
Sydney.
that?
That was my
What?
dog, bro.
That was a dog? That was not a dog.
That was
He-
not
he
a
like-
dog.
He coughed. He coughed.
No, he didn't.
No shot.
You're
That's
talking
why
to
I was like,
yourself.
You
No,
want me to
you're,
lift him up? Like,
no, I don't know if that was a dog down there, VZ.
it's a
There's
dog
no
right
shot.
there, bro.
Oh, bet money, that was not a dog that
But-
made that noise.
Say excuse me, please.
If Dent and Jamie Robinson didn't have those spots locked down, I would go with Sidney Williams for sure, because really like what I saw from him last year. I know he was banged up with injuries a little bit, but when he was in that lineup and you had him and Robinson together, I mean the combination of them coming downhill to stop the run was pretty impressive to watch at that time. So there's a lot of potential with that unit.
Yep. A lot of people in the comments, and also our guy Charleston, who did a great job on this article, put in Sam McCall, true freshman defensive back. And, I thought, had a really good spring too. Just depends on how much playing time he's going to get. But I do think he is going to get some PT this upcoming season. There is a dog in your hand now, D-Lou. It's licking its lips. You don't have peanut butter on you, do you? You don't have any peanut butter on you, do you?
Just because you have a dog in your room doesn't mean it was the one that made the noise.
Not on my fingers.
Any comment on that, VZ?
Nope. None is needed.
Oh man. But yeah, Sam McCall, true freshman, has a chance to break out for sure. I just want to see him play one collegiate game at least. I got to see that. But those are freshmen. Those are guys that we're looking for guys that break out that have kind of played previously. But we'll talk a lot about those freshman transfers. It's the offseason. We got a lot more topics. This is exhilarating content, but we're going to save the rest for later and next week because we need to talk Jameis Winston.
Real quick.
Oh, go ahead. Oh, wow.
Can you do you guys think you can mention Deloach in this conversation, or would
he
you
broke out last year?
Okay,
I was thinking about it, but he was tied for third on the team in tackles. I was going to say DJ Lundy as well.
Yeah,
but they both had almost 70 tackles, so it's kind of tough to say that they're gonna have a breakout season. But they already played pretty solid last year. They took a big step forward for a linebacker unit that we had a lot of questions about going into last year.
Mm-hmm. No, Deloach, yeah, he had his breakout last season. That's a good one from Timmy asking about Pat Payton and maybe being a breakout guy. And this is one that hasn't had a lot of college PT yet, but had a improved spring, put on quite a bit of size, and had some nastiness to him. And from what we heard from a couple of sources during these scrimmages this spring, really played well. And we got to see it in all of these practices too. Luckily, media was available to be out there, and all of these, thanks to Coach Norvell and the staff, we got to be there and watch these full practices go on when these battles are happening. And this is a guy that can get chippy sometimes, and that's sign me up. I mean, it's a friggin' defensive end. Your job is to go after and dominate that tackle or whoever's in front of you, and that's what Pat Payton did quite a bit this spring. So I'm keeping my eye on Pat Payton a lot. Watch out for number 56.
it's possible. I think he's going to be involved in that rotation, but I don't know if he ends up getting enough time to be considered a breakout player.
Mm-hmm.
That would be my only concern. Just we've talked about how many different guys are in that defensive end room and how many could contribute in different situations, and Peyton is definitely going to be one of them. But will he get enough consistent playing time?
As long as he breaks into that rotation and gets meaningful snaps, I think that's all people want to see out of him this year. I don't think anyone's expecting him to go out and get 5 sacks this season.
No. I mean, the helpful thing here regarding PT, D-Lo, is that you no longer have Fuller. So this does push up Pat Payton up quite a bit to hopefully get more into that rotation. But you still got Dennis Briggs. You're looking at Verse. You got McLendon. I think Pat Payton's in that tandem of if there's a package that needs to be done for some rest for one or two of the guys, he gets thrown into that. And, maybe that's what the staff was looking at whenever, the exit interview with Quashon Fuller, that whole situation there, Pat Payton, I think the staff likes what they see. There's just a higher ceiling and Payton than maybe what they had in Fuller. So we'll see.
Don't forget about Leonard Warner.
Yeah.
No, I forgot.
I still think he's going to get some snaps. Not
No,
not a starter, but
I forgot. He's
Yeah.
We're good. We're good.
Damn, Beezy even unmuted the mic to put that in there. Damn. No, yeah. It's just like you look at bursts and you look at 35.
well,
Like,
not like a lot, but to spell.
No,
a
it is
starter.
good. Veteran guy. Veteran. You need it. And
You guys were talking about how much you need old guys.
Yeah, you do. You definitely
Didn't Leonard Warner start his college career in 2017 as well?
want to be shocked, but hopefully you'll get that stat for us.
Might have been 16.
There's no way.
There's a chance.
It was 17. So he's going into year
Same as a
6.
chance.
Almost as many as me.
Yeah, he was 2017. He was a 4-star? Oh my god.
What
He picked
happened?
Florida State over Georgia, boys.
Yeah. I can't believe he was a
I don't-
4-star. That's embarrassing.
Well,
I don't know what
imagine he
happened.
comes in under one head coach. Then his next year, he's got a new head coach here. And then a year and a half later for that, he's got another head coach. So
Yeah.
kind of screws up the developmental process. And he had the
I-
same amount of defensive coordinators in that time as well and got moved around from position to position. So just an unlucky draw, I feel like.
I need to comment on this because we're getting a lot of messages here from Wade on Facebook. I think Wade is talking about baseball here, and I will go ahead and admit to you that we don't really talk baseball on here on this podcast. But not so happy about maybe the loss to Notre Dame. I guess that game's over. Saying former players are now kicking our asses. Really, Junior is an F up. Make the changes. Women's team stepped up, providing great shade. So when do we wake up and make needed changes and come back?
Honestly, couldn't care less.
Yeah, FSU lost 5-3.
Is that over for them in the ACC tournament? I'm guessing. I don't know how that goes.
ACC tournament's over, and now they're waiting to hear which regional they'll play in.
Okay. Well, I wish them the best of luck. But no, we do not cover baseball in here strictly. I know, even though it's May and there's not much to talk about, we will find anything to talk about football recruiting, maybe even basketball in there other than baseball. I'm sorry, this is not maybe a baseball podcast. Maybe it's for good reason, losing 5-3 to Notre Dame and that tournament being over. Let's move on to Jameis Winston, because I could talk Jameis Winston maybe hours, maybe days. Total, Jameis Winston back in OTAs 6 months after surgery. Isn't that crazy? After knee surgery, participating in the camp. He was limited, though, but we saw right off the bat some deep balls going to Ohio State and their first-round pick, Chris Olave. Jameis looks pretty good. It's a first friggin' day, so there's not much more we can say about it, but just good to see Jameis back working, man. And that's just how he is, his mentality. We knew he'd come back and his recovery would be pretty fast. And we kind of said that right after his injury, whenever he was facing the Bucs. Like, this is a guy, if you're going to have someone come back and have the mentality to compete and work on himself and get back as stronger and better and faster, that's probably Jameis Winston. But really good to see him back and now participating as much as he can in OTAs.
Yeah, not surprised at all with the type of person that Jameis Winston is. You know, he always puts in the extra work off the field, and that's the type of thing, that mindset just benefited him throughout this entire rehab process. And it really felt like, I think it was around less than 3 months before he was running again and started doing lateral cutting and everything like that. And eventually we saw him back on the field throwing some 50-yard bombs. So based on the signs so far, it really does seem like Jameis is going to be fully healthy by the time training camp rolls around, and he's going to be a full go for New Orleans this year. And obviously the Saints are expecting Michael Thomas back. They added Chris Olave in the draft. They drafted a new tackle for Jameis to replace Teron Armstead, and you still got Alvin Kamara. So a pretty potent Saints offense, I would say, going into the season. And Jameis, he had a 14-3 touchdown interception ratio last season before going down with that injury, and now he just has even more weapons to work with.
I mean, we're seeing a lot with injuries recently, though, about how quick guys can recover. We talked about it with Cam Akers coming back from his Achilles last year. We're seeing it with Deontay Green coming into the basketball team, who tore his ACL in December, and it's looking like he's going to be ready by October. Guys are just getting healthier faster, and part of it's obviously medical evolution, but also part of it's just these guys' mindsets are just getting better and better, and they're, especially a guy like Jameis, he's not going to back down from anything. Just credit to him for getting there, and hopefully he can stay healthy and put forward a good season.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like you said, D-Lou, I mean, the Saints are doing what they need to do with Jameis. You've got a high-profile guy that can pass the ball, and it seems like he's worked himself quite a bit, working with Sean Payton during his time there on fixing a lot of his mistakes, and they're starting to build around him. This is a 2-year deal for Jameis. He got paid very well. And I think this is kind of like the testing time. They're not looking at grabbing a future. There's a thing in NFL, you're sometimes looking for a bridge quarterback, and that's kind of what the Steelers I thought were maybe going to do here with, maybe Kenny Pickett. They're going to get Jameis in 2 years, but that just doesn't seem the case. Doesn't seem to be the case for New Orleans. They're trying to keep Jameis here. They're going to do 2 years. They're going to give him weapons. They're going to try to protect him. If things work, you got your franchise quarterback for years to come. But if things don't work out, then they just don't work out. But you can see here Jameis throwing to first-round pick, really talented wide receiver Chris Olave, which I can't wait. That connection there is going to be fun to watch because, Chris Olave in Ohio State was already let alone fun. But with Jameis passing attack, his deep ball, it just seems like a match made in heaven type thing, doesn't it? I mean, Jameis it's going to be pretty fun to watch the Saints this upcoming season.
Yeah, and they had a decision to make during the NFL draft, especially with Sean Payton moving on and the franchise electing to promote Dennis Allen to head coach. It was and they were picking decently high in that first round, and some analysts were projecting them to select a quarterback. So it was really, is the new regime going to stick with Jameis Winston, or are they going to want to bring in a guy of their own? But I think it helped that Allen had already been with the franchise, and Saints get on the clock, and instead of going for a QB, they add some more weapons for Jameis, and you've got that continuity. You've got a lot of guys back on that offense who played together last year, and everyone in that locker room respects what Jameis Winston does. You've seen it with the way they've responded to his injury, and you can tell that Jameis is loved by that franchise and the fan base, and hope it all works out for him when he returns from this injury.
But part of it's just that ownership group. They don't want a rebuilding team because they're already going through it with the Pelicans. Just consistently rebuilding. They've finally had a good season towards the end of the year, but they want to be successful. They want to be relevant. So it's not a surprise that they at least went with Jameis for at least another year, because I think of the options that were on the table this year, he gives them the best chance to win this year. Obviously, they could have made a move for Deshaun Watson, and that's different, but I don't think that was really realistic. I don't think they wanted to give up that many assets.
No. And he was just voted number 2. He's the second favorite behind Derrick Henry, which is, I don't know, we talked about this in the production meeting. I don't know. Derrick Henry came back and played in this.
Number 2 for what?
Comeback player of the year.
Oh, okay.
The article that you wrote last night at 3 a.m.
Deshaun Watson's on that list too. What's he coming back from?
Well,
just gonna leave that out in the air and just not comment.
No, luckily, no. We'll let the comments do that for us. But yeah, no, Jameis looks good. Really, you can see the New Orleans Saints fans rallying behind him too, which is really cool to see. Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing a couple of those games in person too, and seeing Jameis come back to Tampa Bay. We got a couple of the schedule. We got the schedule announced not too long ago too. So some big time matchups, and for a division that the Saints have been able to dominate for a little while. I know Tom Brady has came in, but the Saints have been able to dominate that matchup for a little while now. So best of luck to Jameis. Jalen is back. Arrived there in Los Angeles for some OTAs along with Derwin James, and that number 3 got Cam Akers, and that number 3 everything's coming together. Everything. Got Dalvin too a couple weeks ago, showing up to one of their voluntary workouts, and that number 4.
It's gonna be a lot of jerseys bought this offseason.
Just feels right, doesn't it?
Yep, it does.
It's like everything's coming together.
It feels like everything is sadly starting to come. But yeah, anything really basketball wise, VZ?
Really, the only thing we can talk about is John Goodman or Jeff Goodman. I don't know his name because he pisses me off every time I see his tweets come across my timeline. He tweeted out a list of NBA early draft entries and who was intending to stay on the draft, and John Butler was not on that list. Meaning he's still on the fence, at least as of right now, whether he wants to come back, whether he wants to stay in the draft. I had heard a few days ago that he's really thinking about coming back, but maybe some others around him are pushing to stay in the draft. He only has 5 days to decide. The deadline's June 1st. Obviously, it'd be huge if John Butler could come back on next year's team. That team would look a lot better. Just gonna be interesting because we talked about it last week how his first scrimmage game and his athletic testing wasn't that great. His second game was a lot better in that combine. I'd have to pull it up real quick, but I think he had something like 16 points. It was like 4 of 6 from 3. Like he had a great game. So we'll see. I think Florida State wants him back. I wouldn't be surprised if he wants back at this point. We'll see in 5 days. Anthony Polite and Malik Osborne, we're still on that list, so looks like they are gone, which I'm not surprised by. They were elder statesmen and been in college already for 5 years. Do they really want a 6th year? I'm not surprised.
Yeah, don't blame them. They've been here for a while. We've got to keep an eye on John Butler then. That having him back would be you'd feel a lot better about that next season, 2022-2023, than him not coming back.
It just makes so much sense for both parties, especially after everything that we saw from Butler at the draft combine. I know he had at least one good scrimmage game, but just the overall athletic stuff from him, testing wise, vertical wasn't that great. Came in at 174 pounds or whatever, which would be the second lightest player in the NBA right now. So I don't know. In my opinion, it makes a lot of sense for Butler to come back, continue developing, continue building his frame, display more an enhanced role this season at Florida State. And then next year, you're looking at a potential first-round pick instead of maybe not even being drafted at all right now.
Not even just a first-round pick, a guy that could potentially go in the lottery if he can build his frame out, improve that handle, improve his size. That's a guy that's just oozing with potential. If he can just, tap into the thing here and there, and you're talking about a guy that's, a borderline guy to be drafted to a borderline lottery guy. And I don't think that's saying too much. I think he is really that talented. I think a lot of teams are thinking that same thing. There's probably a couple of teams trying to talk him into it, going, oh yeah, we see this potential. If we can convince him to go on the draft, we can pick him at pick 54. We got a guy that we can stash in the G League for a couple of years, and then we have hopefully a really good player. But I think for Butler, it'd be best for him to come back to Tallahassee, and I really hope he does. I really, really hope he does.
Would be a nice addition back to Florida State's basketball program. Much needed. I think that practically wraps up everything here. Like I said, we're going to try to bring. We need some guests. We gotta start dialing in here. We got to start dialing in over the weekend. Not waiting until last minute. So we're gonna work on that. I promise. There's been emails sent, texts sent, everything. So once we can all get a schedule here together, we can try to get a guest on and really start dialing. And once we have that guest on, we're going right at them. I hope they know that they're getting interrogated. So we're fiending for guests. So I need something, man. I need some. I'm coming right in. I've got like 10 questions ready. That's just gonna go right into
it's not even an interview. It's an interrogation at this point.
Yeah,
you will answer our questions.
Should we also congratulate Trent Forrest for his high school jersey being retired?
No.
Yeah.
Oh, sure.
Here's been the alarm. I feel like we should give it to him. Shout out the pride of Chipley, Florida, Trent Forrest.
Chipley.
Damn. Yeah. Shout out Trent. We need Trent on here.
That is cool though. Chipley, not too far from Tallahassee.
It's about an hour.
Yep. Good baseball team there. Tom said he volunteers to come on the show if need be. So if we don't find anybody in these next 2 weeks or so, Tom, hope you get ready, bud.
I'm down.
Well, we'll interrogate you. Look like you
Should we just do a live Q&A roundtable where we just have an open slot?
We need to do phone calls
on the podcast. Yeah, or call-in show.
Yeah, but we just like yell at him the whole time.
We're
really angry.
I do want to do a phone.
How do you wear? What the hell is that? Stuff like that. I think it'd be pretty funny.
Yeah, just roast each other. Yeah. No, that's what I wonder. Saying once we have the guests, make sure you follow us on Twitter, because usually once we have the guests locked up, I'll put a graphic together and we get it out there on socials. So our Twitter is @HearTheSpear on Twitter. So if we do have a guest, we'll let you guys know ahead of time on there. And also, I'll probably have it already scheduled on YouTube so you guys can put the remind me or whatever, so then you get notified on your phone too. So trust me, once we get the guests, we're going to advertise that as much as possible, because it's kind of just been us for the last couple months, and starting to get tired of these guys. Kind of gets old after a while. And I thought like this summer I'd have a little bit more of a break from them and we'd have guests on, but we're kind of just not having any break from one another. So we'll probably kill each other come September.
You know what, man? I guarantee within the next month, an FSU assistant coach will come on this podcast. I guarantee it. I'm done.
Mic drop. Well, all right. That's going to wrap it up. Anything going on the next week, sports-wise? I know we got the NBA Finals. VZ's going to watch and I'm going to watch my Warriors. I'm not going to lie.
Madison 7.
It's not the finals yet.
Well, I know that, 7. But I said we got the finals soon.
Well, they do start next.
Oh, dude, finals
next
start
Thursday, right?
Finals start next Thursday. I ain't going to be on here. So figure that out.
Well, now I'm going to say that the Celtics are going to lose. Well,
wouldn't it be amazing if the Celtics?
They got to make it first.
Yeah.
Please stop, because last night, before we end this, let me go on my spiel. Last night, the Celtics go up 3-2 on Miami. It comes up at Boston 90-4 all time when they go up 3-2. I've watched three of the times they've lost a 3-2 series. 2009, Miami, right? Yep. 2009 Orlando Magic. 2012 Miami Heat, and then 2018 Cleveland Cavaliers. LeBron did it to us twice.
So you've already seen it happen to Miami. It could happen.
Dude, it would just be total pain.
And they shouldn't beat them.
Like, I'm sitting here ready. I've got my credit card ready to put a finals ticket. If Boston makes the finals, I'm flying to Boston.
Like, that was the thing. Like, if Dallas made the finals, I was going to find a way to do a game. I don't care where it was.
I'm putting on the credit card. I don't care.
It would take
$1,000
Dallas, but
Logan, I need a
bonus. This is your personal. This is your goddamn personal money
for work.
Yeah. I told you to take the Celtics game day gig. Didn't want to take it. Look, now it's come back to bite you. Williams asking, where is Nate? Cooking boneless chicken nuggets.
Don't you like this show better without him though? Let's just be honest a little bit.
The real answer is he doesn't get off work in time.
No,
for these early starts.
Tough, but no, we're here for you guys.
Blink once for yes and twice for no. If the show's better without Nate.
I'm just not going to blink.
I tried. I'm not going to go through that. All right, we're really entertaining the crowd now. Make sure you hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Hope everybody enjoys their summer. I know now classes are out practically for everyone and school's out. So prayers to all you parents out there that have to be with the little ones a lot. I also do want to say something too, and I meant to say this before we started the show, but I just wanted it was actually something serious.
Not blinking.
Oh, he's still not
blinking. I went a long time there. You have to admit.
No, I did want to mention too what happened in Texas and the sad tragedy that happened there, and absolutely still, I mean, it messes with everybody's brains too. I got a little brother that's going into first grade now. I was just with him tonight, but it's just a lot of changes that have to happen in this country. You know, we're not going to go on a whole political spiel here, but just thought we'd give kind of our prayers and thoughts to everyone, you know, that was a victim, and what a just, I don't know, monstrous event that happened earlier this week. It affected me. I mean, it's just hits hard, man. It hits hard, and you know, this country, it's tough to live in sometimes. Sadly, and it's scary to see what happens. And this country and look at other countries, different numbers, man, different numbers. Change has got to be made, but just thought I'd kind of mention that out there. I meant to say that before we started, but prayers and thoughts to everybody involved there. But yep, that's going to wrap up this week's episode. As always, you can listen to us on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, YouTube. Hit the subscribe button. We'll be back here hopefully sometime next week, Wednesday, Thursday, somewhere around that range. Definitely appreciate everybody hanging out with us this off season. But we'll have some more content for you guys next week, no matter what. Everybody, enjoy the rest of y'all's week. Enjoy the weekend, and we'll talk to you guys next week. Peace.
Mama told me not to say a word. 17.5, same color t-shirt. Mama told me not to say a word. 17.5, same color t-shirt. Mama told me not to say a word. 17.5, same color t-shirt. Mama told me not to say a word. 17